Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from Impossible Stuff 119 and says, Stepdad unearthed my time capsule. Hello all, this is my first post, so bear with me. Here's the backstory. When the clock hit midnight on the year 2000, all the members of my family and extended family were there. We all signed a paper and each put something into a time capsule. Shortly after, my grandfather passed away from a brain tumor. I was 9 at the time and my grandmother and I buried the time capsule behind the headstone at the cemetery. She told me to take it out in 10 years and have a look. No one else was there for that. I don't remember much of what was put in there because I was so young. 2010 came and I went and didn't feel like taking it out yet. Not much happened in 10 years, so I wanted to wait longer. Fast forward to 2022. My grandmother died after living a long and full life. I disclosed to my family about the time capsule when we were at the graveyard, and it seemed like my stepdad took interest. Parents were divorced and Mum married him in 2008. I confirmed it was still there by poking a small wooden stake in the ground and poked around till I hit something solid. Decided it was still too early and wanted to wait longer. Today, I got a picture in the family chat showing him unearthing the time capsule. My mum and him took a trip to the cemetery. I was pissed and still haven't responded. I don't know how to go about this. I don't know if I should tell him how much it meant to me to be the one to take it out, or should I just brush it off? It's one of those things I think about every once in a while and get more excited as time goes on. I don't even remember what I put in there. Could have been a toy car or whatever, but I don't know. Am I an arsehole for being upset about this? Thank you in advance. Now there's two things that's going around in my mind. You know, if he knew about this, dug it up just because he wanted to reveal it, then absolutely he's going to be the arsehole in this situation. And I don't understand why anyone would do that, and you have every right to be upset about it. The second situation, which, you know, might be a bit further out there, is, you know, when you was confirming if you was poking a wooden stake in the ground to see if it was there, did you say, oh yeah, it's still there, or did you just look like you was trying to find it and then didn't reveal anything? So maybe he thought, you know, it's lost, so he tried to surprise you by digging it up. Again, that might be a wild take on things, but Trail Mix says you're not the arsehole for having feelings that you have, but could become an arsehole depending on how you handle and express those feelings. From here out, I'd focus on what do you want to get out of the situation now. Do you want to see everything that was in the time capsule, or would you like them to rewrap it up and you can have a surprise later? OP says, thank you for your reply. I agree with you. My stepdad and I have a great relationship and he's been there for me. I don't think he intended to cause harm or anything, just think curiosity got the better of him. Yeah, I'd like to see everything in there now. What's done is done, and I don't feel like turning this into a mess will make anything better in the long run. I don't want them to rebury it. I think I was more excited to go there eventually and unearth it myself. It's in another state. Arthur says, what the fuck, who does that? If someone told me they buried a time capsule, my first response would not be to steal their experience and dig it up. Not the arsehole. I'd bring it up with stepdad that he overstepped and it wasn't his to dig up. He wasn't even there when it went in the ground. Mandy Marie B says he's a huge arsehole for that. It wasn't his place to do. Not the arsehole to you. And Dylan Dole says, not the arsehole. What a fucking arsehole. I remember we had a time capsule in the first school I was in, and I think the whole class put something inside it and we buried it. And the place we buried it, they later built a classroom on top of it, so it's still there. I am interested in what's going to be in OP's time capsule. I hope he does open it in this post. So OP updates the post and says, hello all. I figured I'd post an update on what transpired. For those who didn't read my first post, basically I buried a time capsule with my grandma 23 years ago after my grandpa's death. A year ago when she passed, I disclosed to my family about the time capsule and how I wasn't ready to take it out yet. A few days ago I got a text with a picture showing my stepdad exhuming my time capsule from behind my grandparents' headstone. I was a mess for a few days. I was trying to figure out why it bothered me so much that he did that without my permission. There is so much hurt going on recently in the world, and this was such a small thing in the big picture. But I had been waiting for that moment most of my life, and it was taken away from me. I'm a very calm person, and it takes a lot to get to me. I don't know if it was the sum total of stresses in life and anger that I've bottled up over the years, but I was honestly considering calling off Thanksgiving with them over this. Crazy. So I basically sent a text to my stepdad saying that I was very upset that he took it out of the ground without my permission. Instead of apologizing, he said he thought I would be happy that he found it and was just trying to locate it for me. I knew exactly where it was since I was 9 and I never asked for help finding it. I told him that I was not happy about it at all and that it meant a lot to me and the moment has been ruined. He then told me he would put exactly where it was, and in his words, no harm, no foul. He didn't apologize at this point, so I decided to not reply and continue stewing. I got a text from him saying that he sincerely apologizes for what he did and that his intention was to map out exactly where it was for me to find in the future. When he took it out of the ground, he found that the seal had corroded and sand and dirt was inside, so he was going to take it out because it had been compromised. I need to let go of the feelings I had over this. I had no idea why it brought me from 0 to 10 so fast. I'm going to forgive him and let it go. I'm only hurting myself and my relationship with my stepdad by blowing this up. However, I will not be disclosing anything like this to him again. My sweet wife was so supportive and said we can make our own time capsule for our daughter, born this year, to dig up years from now. That made it much better for me. Thank you all for your support. I totally get why OP was incredibly upset over this, regardless of them saying, everything that's going on in the world, etc. But this is your life, and this is something that was special to you. It was something that you buried once your grandfather passed away, and you did with your grandmother. So it has a lot of deep memories for you, and the moment was taken away. So I totally understand why you was upset over this. But I think for me as well, I'm glad that you're not going to continue to stew over this and you're going to try and, move on from it at the same time. Like you said in the original part of your story, that you usually have a good relationship. And yes, I imagine there some damage has been done here. And I just really hope his apology was truly sincere. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Anxious Writer 2742 and says, "My mother did things to my boyfriend. My mother immigrated from her country at the age of 19. She was looking for a new life with my biological father. Well, it didn't take long for my father to use my mother's family isolation to physically and mentally abuse her. I was born 2 years after she arrived in Chile. My mother and I ran away from my father when I was almost 3 years old, and after that, we had no contact with him. As I reached adolescence, our financial situation improved. My mother always went out with me to do girly things. At the time, I thought it was fun, but in reality, it was strange. My mother presented herself as an older friend and tried to blend in with my high school friends. I thought that she gave up her youth, and now she wanted to enjoy these moments with me. When I went to college, my mother asked about parties, which started to bother me. I created a line of separation with her. It was strange how my mother wanted to be my friend at parties, but I always overlooked it, thinking that maybe it was just her wanting to live the youth she didn't have. At the beginning of the year, I started a relationship with S. He is from my old city. I know his parents and he knows my mother. We grew up basically in the same neighborhood, and college brought us closer. I had 3 days without classes to resolve internal college matters, as my city is not that far away. S and I agreed to go home together, spend time with our families. S has 3 brothers. 2 still live at his parents' house, and recently his grandmother also moved in with them. So S's family house was really full. He asked if we could stay at my mother's house, and she agreed. The first day was normal. S stayed with her parents and only came home at night. On the second day, I went to a friend's house. I missed her, so I was excited to see her. I invited S, but he didn't accept, so I went alone. You know when you have a great day and without any warning something horrible happens? Well, I returned home earlier than expected. When I arrived, the place was empty. I looked for S and my mother, but I didn't find them. Then I called them both. S and my mother came home. They were laughing and happy. They told me that they had just stopped by and even brought food for me. It wasn't a story I would suspect. At night, S was in the shower and, well, it was wrong, but I ended up seeing a cell phone screen turn on with a message. S doesn't put a password on his cell phone, so I ended up looking quickly and saw my mother's name. We were in the same house, so I was curious what the message was about. It was disgusting. She was saying sexual things and praising how good he was, asking if he could sneak out at night and some other shit that you really don't want to read. I burst into tears right there. I was angry and very hurt. I ended up going after my mother, shouting at her and cursing her. S appeared scared and I confronted them both. S confessed crying and my mother tried to deny it. Well, I left home and I went to stay with my friend until I went back to college. S continued after me, saying that he was manipulated. My mother says I shouldn't be mad at her, since she just showed me that my boyfriend is a cheater. Simply the worst story I've ever seen. I feel like it's a little bit of my fault. I missed so many red flags from her. I guess I just thought she's my mum, so it's okay. I'm back in college. S is after me and my mum keeps making the calls. What should I do here? Cut ties with her completely? Can I do something to make S leave me alone? Has anyone been through something similar and tell me what to do so I don't feel like shit in the middle of it? Edits. I will be explaining some points here. 1. My English is bad. I make spelling mistakes because my first language is Spanish, but that doesn't mean the story is false or I'm a troll. 2. I have a job that covers my housing and food costs. I also don't have additional college costs, so I'm financially secure. 3. It was suggested that I was after the paternal abuse story. I don't know if I want to get involved in that, nor do I know how to find a father at this point. So maybe that's something I'll look into in the future. You made your point clear to cut all ties with both of them. I will be working on it. It won't be easy, but I will do my best. Thank you for your personal support. A striking wave comes in with this one saying, as a mother myself, gross. This is not normal behavior and your mother needs help, but it isn't your job to support her with that. I have a family member who went through something similar and my advice is based on that. Feel free to ignore it though if it doesn't work for you. I would send one last message stating, what you did is not normal behavior. You need to see a psychiatrist. I will not even think about talking to you until you can prove you've been through treatment and have made significant progress. After this, I would block her from everything, including your thoughts. Secondly, you should never feel any pressure to reconnect. The only reason I would state there is a chance based on therapy is to prevent future thoughts of guilt creeping in for you. You did your best to get her help and now you can move on. Thirdly, I highly recommend finding some sort of therapy yourself. Does your college offer anything like this? It can help you process this trauma. Fourthly, try Tetris. Research shows it can prevent some trauma-based issues. At the least, it's a simple distraction. Sending you huge virtual hugs. This sucks badly. You are stronger and a better person in this story, so try to hold on to that. Mary says, cut ties with your mum. This is unforgivable and she won't stop. She's going to be someone you can never trust around your friends, boyfriends, or husband. It's not worth the angst to continue allowing her in your life. Your boyfriend fucked your mum, OP. That's a choice. He's not a child, and while she may have manipulated him, it's not like he tripped and fell into a vagina. And Pal says, so your mother's revenge on getting abused by your father is to cheat on him with your boyfriend later on. But you both went no contact, so it's probably her trauma, which isn't an excuse at all, obviously. What's family isolation? Are people without support system just getting taken advantage of these days? Terrifying to say the least. I apologize if I'm getting this all wrong. I'm trying to comprehend what messed up stuff I just read. I'm losing my faith not only in karma, but in the good as well. I hope justice finds its way to you sooner rather than later, and also lots of unconditional and lasting love too. Sorry. All I can think of is to try and surround yourself with more trustworthy people. Friends are the family you pick yourself. I'm just trying to think how that would feel finding out a family member, like especially your mum in this situation, betrayed you like this. I just always feel like, and I know I say it an awful lot, but there's no coming back from that, is there really? How do you trust a person again after a situation like that? How do you have a normal conversation with someone knowing what they've done to you? Oh dear, dear, dear. But OP does come in with an update and says, I was wondering if I should update this. I keep getting messages and I see people worrying about me, so I want to update you guys on a few things. I feel like this isn't going to be closure to all of this, and I feel like I'm losing my whole life after this. I'm losing who I thought was my mother and who I thought was my boyfriend. Starting with S. I did as you suggested and went to the college coordinator. I know some people thought that this was an obvious step, but when you're in a hurricane, your mind doesn't work well. The college warned S to stay away from me. He'd be cited for harassment within the college, but they couldn't do anything outside of it. Then S kept harassing me online, which made me delete all my accounts. He also came to my apartment a few times, but my neighbor, an 80-kilogram man with a very bad temper, threatened S, so he didn't come back here. He knows where I work, so would show up sometimes. My co-workers helped me keep him away. I'll be talking to S's family. One of his brothers already knows about this, but I want to talk to his parents and ask for help to keep S away. I mentioned to some people that I'm dealing with the police. Thank you to the people who offered to help me with this. The reason for this attitude was aggression from my mother. She came to my work to talk. I asked her to leave, so my mother hit me in the face, accusing me of humiliating her in public. I ended up with a bruised lip and a bruise on my cheek. My manager called the police and I opened a case against her. I'm going through the process to get a restraining order. I'm also waiting for my lease to end before I move out. You're right. My mother has been trying to live through me and competing with me like a stupid teenager. I discovered some of her actions, like stealing my clothes and going out alone with some friends from school, boys and girls. I don't know how far she went with them, but that wouldn't be a surprise. She has had abusive attitudes over the years, but I can only feel it now. It's like I've been living with an imaginary world my whole life. It's strange to think that I don't even know who that woman is. I looked for my father and I was able to find a criminal record of his in Chile and another in Uruguay, all involving assault. He's absolutely a bad person. I don't want contact with him and I'm not even going to look for that man. I've been stuck with my apartment since the attack. My manager allowed me to work from home for a while. I haven't been going to college for about 3 days. I don't know if I'll go back. I don't feel ready to deal with my personal problems and activities, academics and my work. I'm looking for therapy, but unfortunately I haven't found any that can fit into my budget. People in Chile have also recommended for therapists who don't charge a lot. Please send me a message. Well, this is all I can say right now. It's not the best update, but anyway, I'm posting this. A small final comment: I saw some profiles on TikTok and Facebook responding to my report, and I noticed comments from people who went through the same thing as me. I just want to say to these people that you are great and that you are not to blame for others' lack of character. This situation is difficult and painful, but this cannot summarize your life. Please remain firm in your healing, seek help whenever necessary, and tell your story. Many people on the internet hugged and supported me. I know they also support you. Now, firstly, I just got to say I'm incredibly sorry that you're going through that, OP. I'm sort of lost for words on your mother, to be quite honest, but when you got to about not continuing college and you're not sure if you'll go back, it made me incredibly sad as well. I hope you do continue that and lean on whatever support systems you have around you. And please don't let people hold you back from seeking your education. I know it's very, very easy for me to say I'm not in your situation. I'm not dealing with your thoughts and feelings and everything that's going on around you. But I really, really do wish you all the best going forward. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. And this is a top post from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit from Flat Blueberry 4469, who says, "Am I the arsehole for abandoning my daughter on vacation? My wife and I have always dreamed of celebrating our 40th anniversary with a luxurious vacation. Just the two of us, reliving the romance of our early years. We had it all planned out for years now, and we are excited beyond words. Enter our adult daughter Jane. Jane and her husband got wind of our plans and promptly invited themselves and their 2 children, 9 female, 5 male, along. I originally put my foot down and told them this trip was just for us, which upset her some. But my wife has a hard time saying no to Jane, as she is the youngest of our children and our only daughter. And she didn't want to hurt her feelings, so she reluctantly agreed to let them join. I wasn't thrilled about it at the time, but I wanted to make my family happy. And I knew my wife was also okay with the idea of a family trip. Even if she was heartbroken we wouldn't get our romantic trip. We went along with it. The place we're originally going was not child friendly, so we changed course and decided to on an all-inclusive family friendly resort. We paid for the resort and our grandchildren's plane tickets. Jane and her husband only had to pay for their own airfare. Here's where things get complicated. As the vacation got closer, I started having a change of heart. I realized that our 40th anniversary was a once-in-a-lifetime milestone, and I wanted to honor it in a way that was true to our original plans. My wife and I might not be able to afford a trip like this again for quite some time, and it's something we always wanted to do. So, without consulting anyone, I switched our tickets last minute to go to the romantic destination that my wife and I originally planned for. I did not tell Jane or her husband. I didn't even tell my wife until the day before our flight left, which was a day before Jane's flight left for their vacation. It wasn't an easy decision, and I feel guilty about it, but I wanted our 40th anniversary to be special, intimate celebration we always hoped for. We called Jane after we landed to tell her, and she was extremely upset to say the least. She seemed of the idea that we were going to look after our grandkids so she and her husband could have some alone time, and now that I abandoned her, they would have to do it all themselves. I hung up on them when my son-in-law started shouting, and my wife and I enjoyed the rest of our trip. They came back the same day we did, but have not answered any of our texts, and Jane seems to be ignoring me. My wife told me she vastly preferred our trip to the family trip we would have taken, but she still doesn't like how Jane is mad at us and wants me to apologize. I'm not sure I want to after learning Jane and her husband were using us for free babysitting and a free trip, but I feel like I should just keep the peace. Am I the arsehole for changing our trip destination last minute and leaving Jane and her family to fend for themselves? Now, I gotta admit, this might be controversial, but this one had me wavering. Obviously, looking at it, you're gonna say, not the arsehole, because Jane is clearly entitled. They invited themselves on your trip, your once-in-a-lifetime trip that you said, and they were basically trying to use you as free babysitting, which, just the entitlement in itself is like, oh my word. I kind of feel like, your wife are backing down against Jane and saying, yeah, let's have a family trip instead, when, you're expressing this as like the once in a lifetime 40th anniversary trip. And then you yourself are not just saying, no, you can't come. This is a special occasion, as simple as that. So that's what had me wavering. Is it one of those like justified arseholes or everyone sucks here or something along those lines? Because like I said, don't get me wrong, the entitlement is bloody extreme. Almost sweat then. But I kind of feel like it could have all been sort of sorted out much easier and much quicker from the very beginning. Like I say, it's always very easy for me to say sat here talking shite, right? No initiative says not the arsehole. You essentially paid for her holiday. If you then go elsewhere, then that's up to you. You have no obligation to tell her or check with her first. She has no right to expect you to be a babysitter on your 40th-year anniversary trip. Jane needs to check her entitlement. Funny how she wanted time with her husband without the kids, but didn't think you and your wife would want that on such a special occasion. Thing she doesn't understand or take into account either is, I am sure that over those 40 years and with 3 children, you and your wife would have already made compromises and put your kids before you. You sound like the kind of amazing parents that would. It's now time for her to give back and make sure that you and your wife get to enjoy some of those things you have missed out on. So not the arsehole. I'm glad you and your wife enjoyed yourselves. Happy anniversary. And one more comment from Woo Woody who says, sorry, but I have to go, everyone sucks here. I mean, clearly Jane was the arsehole inviting herself, her husband and her 2 kids along on what was supposed to be a milestone anniversary vacation. And this part makes me absolutely fucking cringe, end quotes. She seemed of the idea that we're going to look after our grandkids so she and her husband could have some alone time. And now that I abandoned her, they'd have to do it all themselves. I hung up on them when my son-in-law started shouting. And OP continues, you raise an entitled brat, though sometimes how kids turn out has little to do with their parents. But on the other hand, end quotes again, so without consulting anyone, I switched our tickets last minute to go to the romantic destination that my wife and I had originally planned for. I didn't tell Jane or her husband. I didn't even tell my wife until the day before our flight left. It wasn't an easy decision and I feel guilty about it. And then Woody continues, that guilt? Yeah, that's you knowing the answer to your question, am I the arsehole? But let's be clear, sometimes we have to be the arsehole. Sometimes we have to take action without telling anyone or without being above board. Sometimes we have to spring a surprise on someone who was completely unsuspecting. But that doesn't mean we're not arseholes for doing it. Rather than putting your foot down and set boundaries, you kind of took the chicken shit way out of not telling anyone until it was too late for anyone doing anything about it. And honestly, I'm cheering you on for doing it. But it is an arsehole move. So now, I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, would love to hear them if you have a moment of your time. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.